Anyhow, so here we are, Trash or Treasure, our weekly appraisal event. The first thing I wanted to talk about was, and one of the things that we spend a great deal of our time with, are coin collections. So, coin collections from for most of the 20th century, collecting coins was one of the most popular hobbies in the United States. People would get buy albums. So here's an example of the kind
those
of blue. Yeah, Alexander's familiar with many
those
years
look like
of.
the books of pennies that I tear apart and
uh,
sort into yogurt containers.
well, the
That was
wheat
it. Summer
pennies,
of
yeah,
2012, man.
yeah,
Summer of 2012. That was.
yeah. I think I paid you maybe even a third of a cent each to do it. Yeah, wheat pennies are worth about 2 cents a piece. Anyway, so for much of the 20th century, buying albums like these and filling them full of coins was a popular pastime in the United States. And over time, along with many other things, there's much less interest in collecting these things, and many people inheriting estates, settling estates, come across these, and sometimes they can have some very good value, while common material that wasn't worth an awful lot back in the day is worth less now, even less now. Things like here, up in here, you can see the. I don't know if
I
you
was
can.
just gonna block you.
Yeah. Anyway, I won't try and.
Here, look here.
I won't try and point someplace where you can't see.
Well, let's describe it.
So,
what color is it?
there's a. It's a blue. It's a blue folder. Well, there's one there. It starts Frank Howe,
Frank Howe.
194 and part of an 8. Anyway, that's an album that Franklin half dollars would have gone into. Silver coinage in up until 1964 that mostly looked like this was made out of 90% silver. They were solid silver. Silver alloyed to make it durable to be in circulation, and this was a standard in the United States up until 1964. From the Kennedy halves from 65 to 70, they made out of 40% silver, so they still have a little bit of silver content. Anyway, while in coin collections, much of the material has lost value. The price of silver has gone way up over the last 10 to 15 years. So while all this material doesn't have any collectible value, its value has gone up significantly because of the silver content that it has. So
are people just like melting these down?
well, they not necessarily. What happens with this material is it gets packaged into so it gets traded as a commodity. It's since the U.S. government made this to exacting specifications for over 100 years, they have a known and reliable silver content and thus value. So they trade it as a commodity. They get packaged into $1,000 face value bags, and then people buy them for investment. If a silver refinery has a demand for some sort of product and needs raw material to refine into that product, they'll buy bags like this and then melt them down and process
So they're
them.
sold as like lots then. For investment.
Typically, yeah, and
because of the reliable composition.
yes, exactly. So in the trade, in the coin business, the pricing on 90% silver like this is based on the current value per dollar of face value. So a bag is $1,000 of face.
So hang on. So a dime is going to be worth more based on that than a half dollar, right? Because a dime is worth 1/5.
Other way.
But if the silver content is 90%,
So a half dollar is going to
Oh
have
my God.
5 times as much silver in it.
Oh, that's true. But wouldn't it be a? Okay, so it's roughly it's inverse.
Well, a
From what
dime
I
is
say.
going to have
So
yeah.
90%. I'm thinking like 90% times 0.1 versus 90% times 0.5. But is it more like the weight of silver in it?
Yeah, it's going to be more like
X grams times
yeah.
0.1 X gram. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's
So, yeah, and I think there's a little bit less than an ounce of pure silver in a dollar's worth of in a $1 face value of junk silver. Hope we're not confusing you. Anyway,
you're confusing me
the
a little bit. Yeah, it's okay.
sorry.
I'm supposed
Um, I just my point is that this is very often in coin collections that were mostly collected from coins in circulation throughout the 20th century. That unless people were affluent or very lucky, didn't find very rare, highly valuable coins. Most of the value is often in the silver coinage, which can be substantial. I had a client, probably around 10 years ago when the gold and silver prices had really taken off. And their parents, she and her sister, their parents had collected silver coins as an investment back in the day, and they had like the old army ammo boxes full of them down in their basement. The parents had passed, and the two sisters split up the coins, and one sister and her husband came into our office, and she had a ammo box full of this 90% silver. And I weighed it up and calculated it, and I think she had between $4,000 and $5,000 in value in that ammo box. And she kind of turned white, and she was shocked. And I said, "What's wrong? Is everything okay?" She was very surprised at the value, but she told me that her sister took all the coins and went to the coin machine down at the grocery store
my God.
and cashed them all in.
Oh my.
And it was
Coin boy had a
yeah.
good day.
Yeah,
Or
well,
maybe not, right? Maybe
yeah,
not.
who
knows,
knows? Who knows? Unfortunate. That was a unfortunate thing, but these can have substantial value. Today they run around, approximately, and they've bounced around this level for a while, around 10 times the face value is their silver value. So,
So
a half
dime's a
dollar is
dollar.
going to be worth $5. A
Yeah.
dime's going to be worth $1. Give or take. The price of silver goes up and down, so that fluctuates. Another type of silver coin, along with these, the ones that we see the most often are silver dollars. These were made for general circulation out of 90% silver up until 1935. The peace dollar, which referenced the peace after World War I, they started making in 1921, and they made that till 1935. That's the one on the right-hand side with beautiful depiction of liberty. The one on the other side is the Morgan silver dollar. They first made that in 1878, and that was minted up through 1921. These were kind of like I guess the $20 bill maybe of the 19th and early 20th century. It was a solid, hefty piece of silver. It was used in trade. We see these are very, 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 very common, and I see thousands and thousands of these every year. The condition, or most of them, unless they're badly, badly worn, have a little bit of a collectible premium above their silver value. An average common one might be worth, anywhere from $12 to $25, say. If it's a rare date or they're in exceptionally high condition, uncirculated condition, they can be worth much more than that. One of the things that you have to be aware of and be very careful of when you have something like this and you're valuing something, like there are examples like the 1884 S silver dollar. S is a mint mark. It means it was minted in San Francisco. The 1884 S Morgan silver dollar, in average circulated good condition, might be a $15 or $20 coin.
So what's the S exactly?
S.
that?
It's a little mark. It's
Yeah.
on coins. Are stamped different places, and that's
Oh, so that's like the mint.
the mint mark. Yeah,
The mint where it was made.
right.
Factory
And that
where it
was in
made,
San
yeah.
Francisco. So there were ones in San Francisco, in Denver,
Mhm.
in Philadelphia.
So D.
Yeah,
and then
D.
T.
But for most of the history of America, Philadelphia was the first mint, and there was no
So-
mint mark on Philadelphia.
Okay.
They didn't start doing marking those P until, over the last 20 or 30 years, I think, or
Yeah.
actually 30 or 40 years.
Hmm.
So the 1884 S in a high grade of uncirculated condition can be worth, $50,000 to $100,000. So because it's very rare in those high grades,
Mhm.
but the same one in average condition, which is very common, is worth very little. So condition can make a gigantic difference in value. So
Yeah, you
it's
told me
just-
like even just running your fingers across it can take it from like a 40,000
Well, if you
to
put
like
a-
a 5,000.
Well,
So-
if you put some rub on it, yeah, that
Yeah,
would be
yeah.
called rub. And people if you held a coin in your pocket and people might carry a silver dollar, just rub on it,
For good luck, right?
for good luck or just out of habit.
Yeah.
That's going to just doing that a little bit will devalue a coin that's in nice condition significantly. What you want to look for, and you can see it a little bit in this peace dollar
Mhm.
on the right. There's in a freshly minted coin, uncirculated coin, there is a quality of luster, of lustrousness that
Mhm.
collectors look for. That's evident, the pristine, beautiful surface of the newly minted or manufactured coin, and that's what.
So when you say luster, do you mean like because I know on some like proof sets of like the modern coinage, you have like, for example, on a quarter you have Washington's head, which is kind of like a matte finish, and then the background, which is kind of a mirror
Mhm.
finish. Do you mean more the matte finish that's lustrous?
No, I mean like the kind of like see on this around in those rays coming up from her forehead.
Yep,
There's
yep.
just kind of like a surface kind of glow, that as a luster.
Okay.
The
Is it kind of like the general quality of silver? If you put like a silver quarter and a regular quarter together, you'd see there's a difference. Is it kind of like that kind of intangible?
maybe, but
quality?
it's more a chatoyance or an iridescence that varies across the surface as you move
okay.
the coin, as you move as you see light reflect in different directions off its surface.
Mm. Cool.
Anyway, so that's something to keep an eye out with silver dollars. We see these a lot, but they're still a popular coin, and are almost, unless they're in terrible condition, they're worth more than simply their silver value. Anybody have who's here? Oh, awesome. Oh, Kyle's here. Hey, Kyle. Alex. Oh, so Alex, are we going to the Waldheim? The Waldheim is a wonderful place up in the Adirondacks that my family and I have been going to for many years. And Alex, who joined us online, is the father of a family that we've gotten to know over the last 20 years going up there. Nice people. We still don't know really what the status is here in New York. One of the nice.
I heard they're moving towards opening.
Yeah, I sure hope so. At the Waldheim they have a big dining room, right? So it'll be. I'm very hopeful that they'll work out all the kinks and be able to open up.
Yep.
So here's a submission from Kate, and one thing I haven't. So Kate was one of the very exceptional assistants that I've had over the years. She was amazing. She now has her own department at the University of Chicago. Woo woo. She was and is obviously very smart. She was a pleasure to have as an employee and as an assistant, and I enjoyed the time that she worked with us very much. The interesting thing is her last name's Lawson, and wouldn't you know, weirdly, but it didn't work out being weird, her father's name is Mark. So that was strange, hiring somebody whose father had the same name as me. Anyway, but it worked out fine, and I don't know. Yeah, so there that is. Anyway, so she's at the University
Richard
of Chicago. Yeah.
Clements and Mary Shea said hi.
Oh, hey Mary. Hey Richard. So This is a banjo lele. I probably might not have called it that myself, though I think it's accurate. What I see more often are what I've learned are called banjolins. So both of these instruments are kind of like hybrid instruments from the early 20th century.
So what? Sorry. So what makes this a banjo lele? Is it the four pegs on top, as
No,
opposed
it's
to the?
the size and the size is that approximately of a
Oh, I
ukulele,
can see it with the placements.
ukulele,
Okay.
and
Yep.
the form, the strict form is that of a banjo. So, which would be a four-string or tenor banjo. I'm not sure how this is tuned. We see ones that have a much larger body, the same size as a regular banjo, but a short, stubby neck, like about the same size as a mandolin.
Mm.
Anyhow, these are from the early 20th century, made, between 1905, 1910 and the 1920s. And it was interesting as I've thought about this, they come from a time when there was a lot of immigration to the United States and a lot of travel between immigration to the U.S., World War One. There were lots of different cultures mixing and traveling and moving all over the world. So you see, I know in furniture from that period, from the 1890s into the early 20th century, you get these crazy mixes of influences. You'll have a dresser might have Queen Anne legs and a Jacobean, top, and maybe some sort of what looks like Art Deco body. I mean, the influences mixed across the board as people and cultures and their respective art histories mixed. Yeah. So it's interesting. So in thinking about this banjolele, it struck me that this is a similar thing. You have people moving around, and you also the period of relativity was the theory of relativity was put forth. Impressionism.
Impressionism in the 1920s.
No, in the early 20th century, coming into the early
Okay.
20th century, the late 19th, early 20th century. So part of that thing, there's a lot of change.
It was quite a time.
It was quite a time.
It was quite a time.
Much of my observations are anecdotal, not academic per se.
Yeah. Anybody who's actually studied history or art history is probably like
cringing.
Yeah, a little bit.
Oh wow.
It was it was an interesting time.
Oh, it was.
Every 14-year-old.
Oh, come on, man.
For many reasons. The 20th century was interesting for many reasons.
Yeah, relativity,
the first
man.
reason is as follows.
Okay. Anyway, there's Prissy. Hi, Prissy. That's Alex's wife, and Louise, a local. Sarah Mannix from a local marketing and advertising firm. Hi, Sarah. Okay, so back to the banjolele. It seems an awkward name to me, but
I mean, who's playing these things?
How would you play it? I guess it's probably like a.
Well, I've got an idea. Certainly not with
okay,
your
yeah. Alert! Beware of appearing in public conversations with your smart aleck son. Yeah. So tenor banjos aren't particularly popular. They 4-string as opposed to 5-string. 5-strings are the most popular. Bacon and Day was a company that made these types of instruments. I don't know. Very often you can look for Mark's Kate on the inside of the body, the round part. Sometimes there's a cross member or cross brace in there that the maker's mark will be stamped on. It's a kind of thing that's interesting but not particularly valuable. I think one in nice playable condition might sell for $200 or $300. You could probably fix it up. The main thing is that the neck is not warped. Once the neck gets warped and the fingering is the fingering configuration is altered to the point where you can't get the notes you're supposed to be able to get, then they lose most of their value. But as long as the neck is true, I'm sure you just need some strings, and you'd probably have to scrounge some of the little tuning pegs for it at a
it looks like
music shop or
there's
something.
4, but there's missing some fittings. And Kate says there's no maker's marks that she could find.
Yeah. Okay. So
I mean, no, she probably looked.
fixed up, $200 to $300 on eBay to a collector, and I bet you could, fix it all up for $50 if you really wanted to, and you did it all yourself. Anyway, a cool little thing. Thanks, Kate. Nice to see you. Happy. I hope your mother had a nice Mother's Day. That's kind of nice. Look, I love the bird's eye maple veneer on the body. That's pretty.
That's
nice
pretty
nice thing. And there's the back, a little sound hole. Cool. Okay, so this is from my dear cousin Jackie.
Why can't I? What are the guys on the left? I want to say the Lollipop Guild. That's the first thing I think.
What the? It
The
looks
Humpty
like.
Dumpty Guild.
Who's the guy that sat up on the wall?
Humpty Dumpty.
Humpty
But
Dumpty.
there
Yeah.
weren't 2 of them.
No, there weren't 2 Humpty Dumptys. So, well, these are a whimsical bit of Americana. These are figural salt and pepper shakers. They have been popular in this form really in I think the first half of the 20th century through the 1960s, probably 20s through the 60s. They probably sprang out of an era of things being inexpensively mass produced. A lot of these, and Jackie sent a picture of one of the markings on them that said, had a well-known 1950s maker of inexpensive export Japanese ware to the United States. It was also marked Occupied Japan. People collected Occupied Japan things.
Now, when you say Occupied Japan, you don't mean China. You mean like 1945 to 48.
Yes, and a lot of this kind of stuff and one of these sets of shakers, maybe I don't have the. Oh,
Well,
I think it's
occupation
actually the Humpty Dumpty ones were marked made in Occupied Japan. So
Interesting.
that was industry that, with American support, was the development of which was supported by the occupation forces after World War II in Japan. The story is that things marked Occupied Japan are much more rare or less common because the Japanese, being very proud, did everything they could to delete or take the occupied mark off
Yep.
of the things so that it was less shameful. I'm not sure that that's true or not. The things marked Occupied Japan are often worth a little bit more, but when I had a traditional antique shop, when this sort of stuff was more popular than it is now, an Occupied Japan mark versus a not Occupied Japan mark might mean the difference between an $8 set of salt and pepper shakers and a $5 salt and pepper shaker. So not a giant deal, but there are some interesting things. I think the higher value things marked Occupied Japan are more have higher value because of other factors. Maybe a figural airplane cigarette lighter or something. The salt and pepper shakers typically don't have much value. I guess as I think about it,
I gotta go.
you got to go already. Oh my goodness.
I'm sorry.
Geez, I hope I know how to.
No, don't worry about it. So here, I'll show you what to do.
How long does it take you to get to work? Oh, come on, you got another 5 minutes. You can't you got to give people 5 minutes warning.
5 minutes. Okay. 5-minute warning. All right. So what you're gonna
we got
do?
5 minutes.
Everybody's seeing the bones here. All right. So just hit that. Hit
Okay,
that.
how do I get there?
Oh, so
Go out of that.
yeah, go out of that.
You go to live producer. Got it.
Yep.
Thank you.
And then you're gonna go into this little app here,
Okay.
and then hit stop. But it might do that automatically.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
You got it?
So I was just going to say that the higher value salt and pepper shakers that I see are ones that are made out of Victorian art glass, and that's probably when the collecting trend started in the late 19th century. And there's some beautiful examples made out of incredible uh, handmade, high quality, and expensive in the time art glass at places like Pearpoint and Sandwich and uh, high quality art glass houses in the United States and also in England. Stevens and Williams is a well-known one, etc. So most of these today, they're a great, they're a cute collection. I think they're worth probably about the same as when I had an antique shop 20 years ago. Anywhere, retail $5 to $10 a set if they're in nice condition. Unusual ones with an advertising theme, ones by famous designers may be worth a little bit more. But thanks very much for sending it in, Jackie. Okay, so
That would be.
that's a platter.
Yeah. First thought was Delft.
Delft,
but
no,
that's
it's
probably what inspired Delft. Right?
so well, interesting you should say that. Some maybe, I'm not
Maybe.
sure. So they're blue and white, and a lot of
yeah.
a lot
that
of
was-
blue and white stuff started off as porcelain in China that was exported to Europe and later the United States in the 17th, 18th, and 19th century. And this is blue willow, a blue willow pattern, very popular in the 19th and 20th century, and that started off as a design on Chinese export porcelain. This is an example from England in the 20th century, in the early 20th
Oh, so
century.
they're just aping the
Yeah.
Chinese.
This is a copy of a Chinese design.
I see.
That's
I
well
see,
documented.
I see.
This was made in Staffordshire. Whoops. Oh, hey. What the heck are you doing,
went down.
Alexander?
yeah.
So, nice platter. When I had an antique shop, I could have probably sold this for $100 today. Might, be 20 or 30 on a good day. But its value is still in mainly that people like blue and white stuff. I'm watching my.
Watching
My-
yourself in the past. Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah. Oh. We'll have to work on that. Mass produced, mass distributed, and like many collectible wares like that.
Betty says to up the volume.
Up the volume. Okay, Betty, I'll do my best. See if you can turn it up on your end too. That between the two of us, I'll try and speak up too. Here's what the hell, these darn
Right and
buttons?
left is
Yeah,
different from
up and down. Yeah. So I'm learning. I'll learn eventually. Oh goodness. So nice blue willow platter today. Not a great deal of value. Here's another thing that used to be worth a lot. Royal Doulton pottery
Royal
dinner
Yeah.
dinner set.
It's
There's the
Dol-
mark.
It's Dalton.
Dalton.
I thought it
Royal
was Dalton. Why did I think it was Dalton?
Dalton. I don't know.
Yeah.
Probably because of the nuances of pronunciation in upstate New York.
Yep.
Yeah.
Bunch of
Or
hicks.
you're something wrong with
Yeah.
your hearing.
Yeah.
Uh,
No, I thought it was like Dalton. Why did I think that?
I don't know.
I may have spelled it like that.
Our catalog, or that's okay. I'm sure it got corrected along the way. So this is a little bit later, probably from the 1930s or 40s, mass produced, mass distributed, a set of china like this.
Okay, I gotta go now.
Okay. Thank you so much for
Bye,
helping.
everybody. Thank you.
Yeah,
Did you remember how to do it?
I'll do my best.
All right.
Yeah, it'll be entertaining one way or
I'm
the other.
sure. I'm sure. I wish I could be here to see it.
Yeah, okay. Goodbye, Alexander.
All right, bye, Dad.
Have a great day at
See you
work.
tonight. Yeah.
Okay. So, wow, flying solo. This is new for me. No. Okay, thank you. Anyway, patterns like this, I used to, 25 years ago, I used to be able to sell for really good money. And today, You know, you can buy something stylish and indestructible at Target or Walmart or IKEA for a small fraction of what these sets used to sell for back in the day. So they're beautiful, but unfortunately not much value. A complete set at an estate sale, if you got, you know, complete service for 8, if you got $100, you'd probably be doing okay. And I may be being generous. There will be some a really wonderful pattern, or something that one that's really, really, you know, on its own merits, beautiful or of exceptional quality, certainly will be worth more. But it's more of a subjective value than a value based on, you know, really what it is, if that makes any sense. So here's a print. Looks like Vienna, and this was sent in by Beth. If it's an original watercolor, which it could be, I can't tell without seeing it in person. I've seen work in this style from Vienna or Germany from, you know, the early 20th century. By a good artist, it could be worth, you know, north of $1,000, depending on who the artist is. More likely, it's a print. Uh, Very often, prints, when you see something framed under glass, more often than not, it is a print. But watercolors can also be framed under glass as well. So that's not a perfect rule of thumb. Anyway, it's a beautiful kind of childhood themed print, very colorful, very decorative, very much in the kind of palette that was popular, color scheme popular in the 1920s and early 30s, from right after the war until the mid 30s or so. Charming and colorful as just a print, you know, might be the kind of thing that would, you know, sell in a consignment shop or an online auction for 20 to 40 or 30 to $50. Charming piece. Thank you, Beth, for sending it in. Here, this is another contribution from our friend Serge up in Montreal. It's a collection of, in the trade in the United States, most people call it Quimper. It's spelled Quimper. I'm pretty sure the proper French pronunciation might be Compe or something like that. This was a very popular collectible. These. Oh, thanks, Betty. So bring the mic closer. So I'll sit a little bit closer to the computer. This type of ware, very collectible, comes from a town in France. There were a couple different factories that manufactured this ware, sold it to the tourists, and again, popular collectible in the early to mid 20th century. Not so much anymore. The people that cared about this collecting area, knew about it, are pretty much gone, and the younger people don't have much of an awareness or appreciation for it. It's pretty and beautiful. This is the kind of collectible that's lost most of its value over the last 15 to 20 years. Whereas they're usually marked on the back with France. That's a number. Back in the day, common pieces might have been worth, you know, $25 to $50, and uncommon pieces could be $200 on up. Today, you're probably more in the $5 to $15 range, with maybe uncommon pieces worth in the, you know, $50 range and on up. And again, that may be generous, but mostly the interest in this type of collectible French pottery has disappeared, and as that's happened, the values have collapsed. So the last thing I'm going to talk about today is, this is example. This is a ring that we actually have on consignment. I do lots of things I buy and sell in pretty good quantity. I do, for higher value things, offer an option to sell them for clients on a consignment basis. I was a Sotheby's associate, back in 2000. I know and have a, professional relationship with all the major auction houses and many of the smaller mid-range specialty auction houses. And so what I can offer to people is the expertise to place an item in the venue where it'll sell for the most money. And because I get a discounted rate from these places, I can charge them the same commission rate that the auction house might charge them if they had to deal with the auction house directly. So just another part of the mix of services that we offer. This is a type of ring that I love. I love jewelry. I love gemstones, diamonds. This looks like it came originally from a well-known, good quality local jeweler who's still in business, Frank Adams. My favorite gemologist, Al Smith, who's now retired, worked at Frank Adams for many years, and Al's down in Florida now. But this is a beautiful diamond. It's good quality. It's set in platinum. It's a kind of platinum filigree setting that was popular in the 1920s. I see this type of ring a lot. The value is really going to depend on the quality of the diamond. This one has a transitional cut diamond that's pretty clean and reasonably white. This is a ring that will be able to, would have an auction estimate of maybe $3,000 to $5,000 and might sell, for $4,000 to $6,000 and even a little bit more. The nice thing about selling at auction is the auctions are, for buyers, are psychological. The auction process is psychologically compelling in the way that once you're engaged and you really want something and you start bidding, particularly if somebody's bidding against you, it's hard to stop. And I know myself, I rarely go to auctions, and because no matter what, even if I decide I'm going to spend $100 or a couple $100 on something, once I get caught up in the process and there's somebody bidding against me, I will always wind up in the heat of the moment bidding more than I had planned on when I started out. It's just psychology. We're competitive creatures, and in the moment we'll keep on going. So auction houses are very good at exploiting this, and it's a great phenomenon for sellers. So someday I'll do a whole show, and I will probably do some. We're going to start doing more little informative videos that we're going to be putting up on our YouTube channel as well. Someday I'll do a more detailed information about auctions and how they work and selling at them. Anyway, this is just an example of the type of jewelry that I love to get in. It's wonderful quality. Yeah, Prissy would like 2 of them. Okay, Prissy. Yeah, me too. No, it's nice. It's a beautiful ring. I do see these sometimes with not so good diamonds in them, and one with a not so good diamond the same size could be worth $1,500. So, and one with a really amazing diamond could be worth $7,000 or $8,000 or $9,000. So the quality of the central large diamond in a ring like that, this is really going to be what is going to set the value. So I think that's about it for me today. That's I'll go back to, it's a little recap. If anybody has any questions, email me, or please send a message by Facebook Messenger. Happy to reply in that way. We'll plan on continuing to do these in some way, shape, or form going forward. As always, we're looking forward. We're gearing up. I'm starting to get ready for being back in business, seeing clients on a limited and safe way moving forward. So I'm looking forward to doing that. Looking forward to this whole thing being over. But it's kind of tough to know for sure how that's all going to look. It's very different. I thought it very interesting that the ice cream place near me that has is only seeing people for takeout. He set it up so he's got two drive-through lanes coming through, and people come out to the car, take your order, and bring you your ice cream, which is great. He's actually doing more business and is more profitable now. I thought that was really interesting, and maybe that's an example of the kind of unintended consequence that's beneficial. Or it's nice at least to see a business person, because I know many businesses have been devastated. It's nice to see a business person who's benefiting in some way, and it's turned out to actually be a plus for them. So that's positive, and I'll leave you on that positive note. Thank you very much. Have a happy Mother's Day, and I will look forward to seeing you next week. And please check our YouTube channel, because we're going to start putting up new content there. Thanks very much. Have a great Mother's Day.